So, continuing from what we have done, basically finding out the periodicity of replacement, you can actually plan the maintenance, right. But one thing is integral part is the inspection. So, planned maintenance should be 95, or good maintenance system will be 95% planned, 5% should be based on contingency or what we call ad hoc. So, we have 3 levels of planning, that is what I think I was mentioning in the last class at the end. Long term planning, which will be for 5 years, or right in the beginning you do it, then yearly planning middle time, and there are short term planning. Then we looked into certain models actually, right. So, always replacement models we looked into a number of them, and we also said that you need actually there is some disruption cost involved, because if you do inspection or if you do any kind of like pre-planned maintenance work, sometimes there could be disruption. So, while you are trying to find out replacement analysis and all that, disruption cost should be taken into account. Now, then this is what where we look into the role of inspection in the overall planned inspection in overall planned maintenance system. So, you do inspection every year. So, you might do inspection, let us say if it is your financial year starts from April to let us say March, then you might do an inspection somewhere in January and February to identify what is the work that is necessary this year, which would have come from long term plan, because every 5 yearly you may have to do certain amount of renewal work. So, we have actually developed what is called maintenance profile every 5 yearly, which between 5 to 10 years, which items will be renewed, completely replaced, which items will be partially replaced or whatever it is. That is what we have seen. For a large estate, this will work out very easily. So, you do an inspection to find out whether this year you need it, although it is within 0 to 5 years from long term planning, or 5 to 10 years or 10 to 15 years, whether this current year, which might be 13th year or 12th year, whether you need that or not. That is inspection will give you first that. So, once you have looked into visually apprised the situation, might do a small instrumental also. For example, you might have like to see if there is some places where you can't see, you might use some instruments, some instruments depending upon of course the kind of buildings. For example, in a very important building you might do good lot of instrumental survey to see that things are okay, which are likely to deteriorate and things like that. So, by doing a survey inspection, you find out what is the work that would be necessary this year. If it is within, then the next point would be, so first you will see that whether it is work is necessary. If it is necessary, then you have to also decide the priority. Some items when you have gone to inspection, you might find that it is very urgent to be done. So, therefore, you decide the priority, if it is normal, urgent or emergency. First you find out whether work is necessary, not necessary, then put it back for the next year's inspection, right. Sometime not necessary, work necessary, put it in the next year's inspection again. If it is necessary, yes, see the priority, and then normal, urgent, frequent, emergency. So, emergency you will do it weekly basis, urgent you might do monthly basis, and if it is normal, then see whether you can outsource it to a contractor or something like that. So, planned inspection is a must for planned maintenance system, right. In the meantime, you can also keep some users request, some leverage or some cushion for users request. So, if the users request has come over the years, maybe which are long term type of, emergencies will come anyway every day or every week. So, then you say if it is necessary, then put it back, because they might say that okay, you do external painting, right. So, you can keep that put together for the whole year, or some sort of planning within some inspection schedule if you have. So, you check whether it is necessary. If it is not necessary, you think that it can be done later on, send it back to the user, say we will check it later on. If you think it is necessary, see whether again the priority, whether it's emergency situation, urgent or normal, and follow in the same manner. So, this is inspection is a must. Now, cost of inspection, what is the frequency of inspection? We have looked into a model related to that also. What we said is, if you increase the number of inspection, there will be a reduction in emergency call. So, if you know the cost of emergency and cost of inspection, then total cost you can find out as sum total of number of emergency calls multiplied by cost of emergency per calls plus inspection and number of inspection, and we have actually had a model. I think last class we discussed about that, right. So, this is the model that we talked about. I think we did discuss this. So, I am not going to this, but the point that I was trying to mention was that plant maintenance system we divide into two parts. One we call as scheduled maintenance, another is contingency. Now, scheduled maintenance is the planned part of it, which we pre-schedule them. Contingency is what comes as emergency situation, suddenly some request comes and you talk about that. So, it's generally emergency or contingency generates from users request, and schedule comes from long term program. So, I have every 5 years program, as I said, 0 to 60 years, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, etc., for each building, and for a given estate every building if I have the record. So, I know at which year it is. So, what I am supposed to do this particular year, maybe I have already planned that I will be doing replacement of the internal wiring of some 10 houses, 10 set of houses, and maybe some other 10 houses I will be looking at the roof covering, because their age is about 20-25 years. Now, if I am at the 22nd year for a particular set of buildings, then I might find, although I said that 20 to 25 years I will do all renewal, only a part of them will require renewal. So, from long term I find out what will be done this year, yearly planning. So, long term program from that annual inspection both generates my plan for this year, because I do the annual inspection and say, okay, out of those 10, 5 I will do this year, maybe 7 I will do next year, and so on. 20th to 25th year I should do the roof covering replacement, but all I will not be doing this year, I will be doing, so it would be distributed over a period of time. That is what we have seen. So, first annual inspection and long term plan, from that my work comes. I up to date my long term plan through annual inspection, then do the budgeting for the year. So, in the budgeting I must keep some provision for contingency. That means, I know over the years if I have actually seen how much percentage is the contingency, then I can keep that much provision in the budget. That is what normally done even other things also when you are doing planning. For example, even if in your office, if you are doing a planning in your office, which could be a design office itself, you will have certain recurring cost which For example, air conditioning, air conditioners, or like your papers. So, every year how much money goes on paper that these are basically recurring and contingency sort of. Like either you can, of course, paper purchase you can always plan, but I am saying some of them although they come as and when suddenly somebody says that cartridges are down or something like that, all the printer cartridges are to be. So, you can actually replace them in bulk, again bulk replacement policy you can adopt, but supposing certain contingencies also might come, because between two bulk replacement you might require certain number of immediate replacement. So, how much percentage it would be. So, actually how much contingency allowance you should be putting, that usually should not be too large. Then the budgeting you do for this year. Then you have to decide this year if I am doing the budgeting, whether I will be doing by own or I have time and I will put it to the contractor or outsource the whole thing. So, if it is own labor, then of course it will be put into monthly and daily or weekly, weekly program or daily program, depending of course their priority. But if it is normal, obviously I will put it in monthly. If I am doing by own, because I will maintain my workforce also to a minimal level depending upon how much of the work which I can kind of the workload has to be sustained for the throughout the year and year after year. Only those works those works which you can do yourself, you will do yourself, otherwise you will be outsourcing it. So, the time has to be also. So, outsourcing would mean that you need some time, because you have a tendering procedure, etc., etc. So, then if the time is available, prepare contract documents, tendering procedure, etc., etc. If it is no time, or even otherwise you decide your workforce will otherwise be sitting idle, so you want to do, or you have actually planned certain types of work to be done by yourself, then see whether you can put it in the monthly program, weekly program, or daily program, depending upon, of course, their priorities, normal, urgent, or emergency. Now, if it is not within budget, then put it back to next year. Now, if it is not within budget, what does it mean? It means actually that, you see, you would have already done 60 years of planning. So, you know how much money you would need in your budgeting. For long term budgeting you have already done. So, even if the provision is not available here, which means that it possibly is not an important work, I can delay it possibly. So, put it to the long term plan and next year I will do it. Now, since you have already kept some provision for contingencies, obviously there will be users request coming on emergency basis. In that case, or what cannot be taken care of by plan, for example, I said between two bulk replacement you will still require some spot replacement. So, those are taken care of by users request. Check if the users request comes, whether you look at it, you check it, if it is okay, necessary, fine, go ahead, find out the priority and normal, urgent or emergency, etc., etc. For example, user might request, I need an internal painting, right, I need an internal painting. Now, you check, might do a quick inspection, well, we have done it last year, you do not need this year, straight away you can find it out, then you can send it back, but you think it is necessary, it is already the cycle, near the cycle, maybe it might have gone bad. Now, if it is internal painting, you can delay it, so you should not put it into emergency, but something which is quite like it can have effect, it can have hygienic effect, or it can affect the primary activity of the organization, then you might think that it is urgent or something might be an emergency. So, that is how overall maintenance planning is done. Yes, this you have to do it to emergency and so on. So, similar. So, therefore, what we have identified? We have identified two components in the planned maintenance system. One we call as scheduled maintenance, another is contingency maintenance. Scheduled maintenance takes care of all the planned items, and contingency is what I can't cover by scheduled maintenance, planned maintenance. In the scheduled maintenance, what I do? I bring it from long term planning, then look into the annual inspection. So, these are actually part of large estate maintenance system. That means, you must schedule, you should plan. Right in the beginning, every year there is a particular time when you say, okay, you inspect, there should be a team which should be inspecting all your facilities and give you updated situation. So, there is a maintenance work in civil maintenance work can also be planned. Normally, it should a good maintenance system should have as high as planned part than some emergency or scheduled part. So, that is what it is, right. So, therefore, advantages of planned maintenance, the scheduled part of it, you can group many jobs, you can group the jobs, right. For example, nearby facilities, you can just say that, okay, you do this, you can group the jobs or type of, depending upon type of building. But if it is ad hoc or emergency type, then it will be isolated location, today this place, next day somewhere else. This will be large scale, this will be small scale. Obviously, high value jobs in the sense that you will give a bulk. So, here each job is low value, but finally you will be doing the same thing. Here those ones which are predictable, that is what you will take it, And in this one you have decided not to do predictable, so only unpredictable things will be taken in that ad hoc part. Percentage loss time will be much less in case of plant maintenance, high percentage loss time in this one. Excess difficulties, this is also there, because premises you have to enter, you have to take, possibly you will have to take permission or ask the user. This will have difficulties, this will have less difficulties. So, therefore, high volume of material, low volume of material, you can plan it, inventory storage cost will be lesser. Administrative cost, possible time and cost, high administrative cost, difficult to control time and cost. So, obviously, this would be costly, this would be relatively cheaper, and that is why you tend to keep 95%, as high as 95% to the planned system, then only a small portion should be ad hoc type. Therefore, economic and socially acceptable balance between these two are necessary, and they are complementary. You cannot avoid emergency or ad hoc maintenance system, contingency system you cannot avoid, right, but try to keep it at the minimum. So, that is what we are saying. So, which items you will take in schedule system, where predictability is there. Even in plant maintenance, everything you cannot take in schedule, there will be some in the contingency maintenance. So, which tend to deteriorate at a more or less uniform rate and which do not have high degree of urgency. If you have urgency, then you have to put in. So, we have actually classified items into different classes. We have classified items into different classes. So, those items where I can predict or I can actually find out a replacement cycle, repair cycle, replacement cycle, where I am able to find out that after 20 years I need replacement or major change or renewal. In those items I will put it in schedule system, such that I will be carrying out the work at predetermined times. So, incidents of failure can be predicted accurately, or somewhere I can fix the periods. For example, external painting, I say I will do it every 3 years or every 5 years or every 7 years. Guaranteed time is given to me 7 years or something like that. I will do it every 7 years or something like that. So, if the periodicity I can actually estimate, somewhere through deterioration, somewhere by frequency based, in that case I will do those items in the schedule system, right. So, it can also be contractual. For example, in the lease you have decided you will keep it every yearly external painting will be done or something of that kind. So, second thing is inspection is a must for plant maintenance system. So, you can identify the defects and where you can actually imminence of failure you can identify, you will put them schedule. Where you cannot identify you cannot predict. So, even through inspection, right. So, through inspection actually those one which you can predict you will put in schedule, which I still after that I can't predict, they will go into contingency system, like sudden leakage of pipes and things like that. Although the inspection might tell me there is there is some problem. For example, if the rusting has occurred of the pipeline or something of that kind, or there are some damages, that by inspection I should be able to find out. Okay. So, essentially where I can predict the work, I will put them in schedule. Where I can't predict the deterioration or the time of my repair, I will put them in contingency. So, this is waiting till the complaint comes. This is basically those ones till the complaint comes, and users has to be relied on this. So, what you can do is, even then if you have seen last year's complaint, how many complaints came last year after doing planning, how many complaints came last year or previous year. So, if you have over the years on an average basis how many complaints came of a given type and what is the cost involved, if you can predict that, then its quantum can be predicted. Although the actual job you may not be able to predict, but the quantum, the amount of work or amount of money finance needed for that for every year, that you can predict. So, that is you put that. So, this is what you put into the contingency system. So, which should be preferably done through direct labor force, because your own labor force, suddenly something emergency comes, you can't hire somebody, time is you don't have time. So, it should be direct labor force, or if there are, even if you outsource it, give it to such an agency which is available all the time to you. You call them and they will come in the night, but then they would be charging high, because they will also have surplus worker or something like that. Unless they are able to give work to the workforce all the time. So, best it's basically such work should be taken care of by direct labor force. This works, you find out your labor force which is required to sustain, labor force which you can actually have a sustained workload on emergency basis. That also you can find out if you see periodically, if you look at the data, yearly data, then you can actually find it out. So, preferably contingency works are done by direct labor force, and overall workload you can predict, right, and also materials etc. you can keep into the store for the common repairs and such things like that. So, basically that is what is your contingency and schedule system differences. How much time gap you can give? If you cannot give a time gap between the complaint you have got it, between the time you have actually identified that there is a, or you have come to know that there is a problem, to the time when you can do the repair, if the time gap available is less, then it will go to contingency. If I can delay this work a little bit, then I will put it into scheduled maintenance. When I have come to know about a particular type of activity or repair work has to be undertaken, if I can delay, if there is a delay available, first identifying there is a problem. So, from the time of identification, supposing I identify at this time, supposing this is time axis, at this time I have identified, and one case is that okay, after identification I have sufficient time to, yes, sufficient, I mean I can delay it, because it will not have other implications, no cascading effect of other defects or stop my function or something of that kind, then I can put it into the schedule system. But if it is to be done immediately, then you better do it by contingency system. So, it is essentially the delay period, this is called delay period, right. So, main difference between schedule and contingency maintenance is that lead time, that is the time available between notification and actual execution. So, if this is greater, then I put it in schedule maintenance, if this time available would be short, then I put it in contingency. So, the main factors while deciding whether a work should schedule system or contingency are predictability of failure, reporting delay time. Sometime I may not be able to even know when there is a actual defect has got initiated, I will come to know about it much later. In such situation you can't put it to schedule system, because the delay period will be less. So, rate of deterioration of the component, that should be known, and if you can't rely on user, then it will have to be on schedule system on your own inspection. If certain complaints are there, okay, whenever user says I can do it, I can put them into contingency system also, but idea is to maximize the plan, minimize the contingency part. So, sometimes safety might be affected, user satisfaction is also the other issue. If you delay it, users will be unhappy, and primary activity of the something you don't do, primary activity of the organization might be affected. Second thing is, if I can delay this job, so I can the sites could be dispersed site. I might decide okay, I can delay this job, but I will do it all of them together if there are some more complaints from the similar places, or if it is not complaint, I might group the jobs together. So, this is dispersion of job situation is important. Cost growth, sometimes you do not do it, cost will increase, cost of maintenance will increase, and of course, sometimes misuse of property can also happen. So, this is how we should actually, but then there is problem involved, because as I said that building maintenance management system or building maintenance or buildings as a system, large number of buildings I am talking of, I am not talking of single building maintenance, it is large number of buildings we are talking about, large number of buildings in an estate. Generally that would be the case usually, whether it is like even if our office, if it is a small office one thing, but office might have been it must be on rent. So, therefore, the owner might have number of offices, similar offices in this vicinity. So, we are talking of similar sort of situations. So, in such ones number of items are too many. I said there will be civil items, there will be electrical items, there will be mechanical, and trades people involved might be carpenter, the fitter, even mason. So, trades are also very different. Many different trades come and they kind of interlocking activity. For example, I can give you an example of a fixing of a, let us say, night latch door lock, right, in a board timber board door, right, door. So, supposing you want to fix it, first the carpenter will have to make the hole. The latch will penetrate into the work, masonry work, into the masonry work. So, you have to actually, some mason will have to come and create that space for the latch has to go. Then the fitting will be done by a fitter, lock opening, and it will be done by a fitter. Now, you see the sequence of operation. First, carpenter's operation, maybe part of it is then mason's work. If somebody is expert in all of them, that is a different issue, but usually I am giving simple example, there will be more complex ones. Then there is a little bit of mason's work, then fitter comes in, he fixes it up, checks that it is working fine, right. Maybe carpenter's work is required again, finally mason will come and do the plaster and things like that. So, it is all interlocking activity, not a single, it is not that I come, finish and go away. Even when an electrical rewiring is done, first a mason's work is required, then the conduit will be placed, the electricians would actually fix those ones. So, there are interlocking activities actually involving different trades and different types of items. So, with this kind of small, but the quantity is small, in this classroom, in a classroom you might have about 2 doors or 3 doors, maybe some lamps, maybe some lamps and fixtures, some 20-25 of them. So, you can see that small items, but number of them. The item is not a big one, as opposed to, let us say, an industrial scenario, let us say a thermal power plant. Now, you have a huge turbine, single item, although turbine itself will lot of mechanical items and electrical items into that. But what I am saying, in buildings there are too many items, a building as a system will have too many items. Comparison, let us say another infrastructure facility, bridges, much less number of items actually, and similar kind. Here the too many trades, too many number of items. So, it is not easy to actually plan this work. So, there is a planning difficulties there related to this. So, therefore, you have to decide the best work sequence, otherwise your mason will just remain idling. Mason will be idling once the carpenter has finished the work. So, if you can do some work sequence with several such works grouped together, that would be best. Then uncertain work content, that is also there sometime. Dispersal of sites from one site here, next day another site. For example, if you have a maintenance depot, it possibly starts from here, from the depot goes there, it does the repair, comes back again, then there is another site goes there. So, dispersal of site, if it is there, these are other problem, and sometimes user might not allow you to do the work. Users, for example, AC servicing of let us say all the rooms in office rooms in block 4, right. The the office occupant, so I am not available right now. So this is also the like normal progress of the work, because the classroom is not available, forget it, no servicing now, you do it sometime later on, Saturday or Sunday, this something of that kind. So, there are this kind of issues involved, and if you are relying on user sequence, then there is irregularity, it cannot be, it will not be periodic. So, all these issues are involved in planning the maintenance work, and therefore, this is not an easy job, but still it can be done and do as much as possible. Put it in the plan. Do as much as possible, put it in the plan. Some will be obviously, not everything you can plan. So, this is what it is, and plant inspection is a part of plant maintenance. That is what I have said. And if you look at what is the purpose, preparing and scheduling facilities to maintain in the present, at present, first you find out which I should be doing maintenance this year and its current condition. If there is a deviation from the standard, that I check, and extent of damage and their remedial measures, and if the past repair has been done correctly or not, that also I check through inspection. Right. So, basic advantage is we get up to date appreciation of the condition, right, and it should be actually today it is very easy to keep a track of everything and record them actually, and keep a kind of a track of it, because it is all you have all computer based. So, recording is very easy, you record it and store it, but people should have the right idea that we want to do a scientific building maintenance management system. So, it is all possible to do that, and that would allow you to actually save a lot of your money, because you can control. So, more accurate prediction of maintenance requirement, budgetary control is possible, better planning of small jobs, that would be there, and risk of breakdown reduces, because we have seen that number of emergency calls reduces exponentially if we are doing increasing the number of inspection. So, this also increases the life also, right. So, inspection is part of plant maintenance system. We can group them location wise and based on periodicity of inspection, etc., etc.